On the lender side, how easy is this going to be to adopt without kind of changing existing infrastructure?
I'm really glad that you're raising this point, Adam, because as you can imagine, this has been one of the most critical design objectives we've had at the start of, again, designing and developing UltraFICO Score. And that was really very much focused on operational simplicity. We know for a fact that whenever a new score comes along, more often than not, most lenders would have to go through an exhaustive testing process. They would have to check in with their compliance and model governance teams. And that whole process can actually take months on end before a given lender can really start adopting and then fully really leveraging that new scoring solution. Well, with the UltraFICO Score design blueprint, we really kept a very close eye on preserving the look and feel of the score that lenders are used to seeing off of, again, the core or the flagship FICO score. So again, the score itself really goes from a 300 to 850. It really comes with the FCRA compliant adverse action codes that lenders and then consumers are very much used to working off of. And arguably, and most importantly, this solution is really calibrated to the core FICO score. So in more practical terms, what that means is that the meaning and interpretation of the score is very similar and consistent between the Ultra FICO score and the core FICO score.
When you were testing this over the years, like what types of consumers were you seeing benefiting the most from this testing?
Yeah, our research, Adam, has consistently shown that cash flow data certainly provides incremental value across the entirety of the score spectrum. But there are certain pockets of the population where this information is proving to be that much more helpful and useful. And to really call those out, first of all, we basically have consumers with either limited credit histories or we have consumers who may have blemished credit histories. So we have this sort of category of prime and thin or new to credit consumers. Again, those consumers typically have a relatively small number of credit obligations, which would show up on their core bureau files.
So, how are FICO and Plaid addressing privacy and consumer trust around bank account data?
That's obviously a very important consideration. One of the more novel features of this new scoring framework is the notion that it really puts the credit consumer squarely in the middle of the entire lending ecosystem. So that's a very empowering proposition for the consumer, obviously. So the underlying principle here has always been this focus on consumer consent. So in other words, the whole process will be triggered based on the consumer actively permissioning access to their bank account information. Again, otherwise, this would be a non-starter. We talked a little bit about the importance of, again, infrastructures that are really out there, that are really designed primarily around ensuring consumer trust and transparency. And that was one of the main reasons why we were also very excited about our partnership with Plaid in this process. So again, consumer will certainly need to explicitly permission access to their bank account information.